headbangers, I'm Courtney, aka The Versatile Virgo, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I run a blog, theversatilevirgo.com, which focuses on all things heavy music, including but not limited to musically inspired outfits and recipes, interviews, reviews, and so much more. So if that's something that interests you, make sure to check it out. I've linked it in the description below. And speaking of musically inspired outfits, that leads me into today's video topic, which also coincides with today's blog post. That is for my Band Merch of the Month series, and in the latest edition, we are talking about Anthrax and their 2011 release, Worship Music. Honestly, the whole album is a great listen, and I recommend listening to it in its entirety. I know a lot of people that love to listen to music and love discovering new things, but in today's instant gratification style society, where everything is just so fast paced and we expect to make quick decisions on everything, I do know people that will not sit down and then listen to an entire album, at least at first. They'll maybe want to handpick a couple of songs and then decide if they want to sit down and listen to it. So that's why in today's video, I am going through the 3 songs from Anthrax's Worship Music that I couldn't live without, and I highly recommend checking those out if I can't get you to listen to the whole album. But first, for those of you that are new to heavy music, let's talk a little bit about Anthrax. When you talk amongst metal fans and you get on the topic of Anthrax, one of the things that is going to come up is, do you prefer John Bush era Anthrax or do you prefer Joey Belladonna era Anthrax? And just so we're clear, because I can guarantee you that because I only mentioned Joey Belladonna and John Bush, that someone somewhere is enraged, typing me a comment, but what about Neil Turbin? He's my favorite Anthrax vocalist. Anthrax has had several vocalists, but I'm specifically mentioning Joey Belladonna and John Bush because in terms of Anthrax's music and popularity speaking, the albums that they are both on are probably the most well-known Anthrax albums, including Spreading the Disease and Sound of White Noise and Among the Living. And as much as I love the John Bush era too, when I think of Anthrax, I think Joey Belladonna, and I think there are a lot of fans that would probably agree with me. There are 2 bands in this world that I can't help but sing at the top of my lungs to whenever I get the opportunity. Oh, and I'm not talking just singing along. I'm talking I do the full-fledged stage-ready performances, at least to me and my dogs and my cat. It is a full-fledged stage-ready performance. Doesn't matter if I'm having a bad day, doesn't matter if I'm having a good day. Usually it's when I'm home alone. I just crank it as loud as possible. And those 2 bands are Alice in Chains and Anthrax. That's just how Anthrax makes me feel. Their music to me is shout it from the rooftops good. Anthrax to me is a very high energy band. Much like bands like Motorhead and Judas Priest for me, they are an instant good mood listen. So I don't know if there was like an extended Mercury retrograde going on when Anthrax was working on this album, but they had a slew of problems and it did take a while for this album to come out. However, somehow the stars had aligned, and I bring up Mercury retrograde because it seems like Worship Music gave Anthrax the opportunity to right some of the wrong business decisions, at least, that they had made in the past. I talk a little bit more about that over in the Band Merch of the Month post at theversatilevirgo.com. Again, I've linked that in the description below, and that's where you will find 5 facts about Anthrax's Worship Music that you should know. That's also where you will find the details on this sweet Anthrax Van T dress. I always love learning a little bit more about the albums that I love, even if I've heard them a million times, because I think it just makes them that much more special, and we can appreciate them so much more when you hear about what the band was going through at the time, how the album was made, and things like that. And that's no different for Worship Music by Anthrax. But Virgo, if you could only have 3 songs from Worship Music, what would they be? Well, I'm glad you asked. And just so you know, these are in no particular order. I had a hard enough time trying to narrow down which 3 songs I was gonna go with. Again, there's so many good songs on this album. My first pick would be Earth on Hell. Worship Music opens with an intro, but Earth on Hell is really the first full track that we get to hear on the album, and what an opener. It has kind of a darker vibe to it, which I would hope you would expect from a song called Earth on Hell. I kind of started mentioning this before when I was talking about Anthrax being such a high energy band, but this song is a great example of that. Throughout the song, the pace may change slightly, but the energy almost feels like the music is bouncing around. And there's not just that uncontrollable feeling of wanting to bang your head, because of course that's there too, but the music really just makes you want to jump around with it. You can feel it in your bones. And we're not just head banging at this point, we are full on body banging. The energy of this song, I feel like, just kind of overtakes you, and that's all while the music is just like roaring in the background, and that's something to me that is just so Anthrax. The second song that I couldn't live without from Anthrax's Worship Music has to be In the End. Scott Ian at one point had said that In the End is kind of the centerpiece of worship music, and I'd have to agree with that, especially knowing what worship music represents as an album. Again, that's something I talk more about over in today's blog post at theversatilevirgo.com, linked in the description below. In the End, to me, is a really emotion-driven song, and in particular, I think it really does a great job of kind of capturing that feeling of grief. It may have a bit of a melancholy feel to it, but it's also super heavy. And even at some points, it almost kind of feels a little bit angry, which is a very real emotion when you are dealing with grief. The whole song, I think, is just really powerful, and the main riff in particular really drives that home. And the drums to me in this song kind of represent that feeling of needing to keep going and pushing through, and they're kind of like the fuel, I guess, in that sense. In the End is also a tribute to two legendary metal icons. Again, that's something I talk more about over on theversatilevirgo.com, and I've linked that in the description below. And finally, number 3 has to be The Giant. This is another one of those songs when it comes on that I'm like, and then I just crank it up even louder, which that's mostly so I can hear the music over myself singing along. If you asked me to pick a song on worship music that would be an example of why I love Anthrax so much, The Giant would be it. It's fast with high energy, it's catchy, and honestly, it's just electrifying. Specifically on The Giant, it almost kind of feels like there had been no time that passed between Belladonna and the rest of the members in Anthrax. I think this song in particular allows all of the members to shine and really highlights all of their amazing qualities, but then it takes all of those and it just blends them all together into something amazing. I honestly wish I could have been a fly on the wall when each of the members actually heard this song and how it turned out, because to me this song is just kind of mind-blowing. Anthrax really just kind of seems totally in sync with each other on The Giant, and that's especially true in the last 47 seconds of the song. It's just amazing, so just go listen to it. So now that you've heard the 3 songs from Worship Music by Anthrax that I couldn't live without, I want to hear yours. If you could only have 3 songs from Worship Music by Anthrax, what would they be? Let me know in the comments section below. I'm sure that there's going to be someone who tells me the 3 songs that I picked are totally wrong, and that's perfectly fine, because honestly, if you're helping me spread the word about great metal music, I think the more the merrier. And if you like this video, then you will want to subscribe to my channel, because I post once a week and I have even more heavy music related videos coming out soon. Also, don't forget to check out my blog, theversatilevirgo.com, for even more metal lifestyle content. Thanks for watching, everybody, and stay heavy.